In this video, we are going to talk about the JS plugins that you can find in the themes, how they are structured, and how you can manage them. We will also work in the code in order to see how to identify which plugin is responsible for one specific functionality, how to edit it, and how to debug it too. Doing a small example together will help us to get a better picture of how to deal with the JS plugins. We would like to highlight that there are two ways to deal with the theme plugins. The first one is through the data attributes. Editing data attributes in the HTML files will control the plugins as an API. You will have a list of options that you can edit through data attributes values. Doing so will modify the default plugin behavior. And the second one will be useful if none of the available plugin options will solve your needs. Then you should have to edit the JS code of the proper plugin in order to achieve what you need. In this video, we will cover the first way to control the plugins. In the next one, the working on a JS plugin, we will cover how to edit the plugin JS code. We will assume that you have a good understanding of JavaScript and also of the Chrome DevTools. If you are not familiar with JavaScript objects and how to debug JS in the DevTools, you might need to check out these concepts before going ahead with these two videos. Having said that, let's get started. If you go to the theme manager, you will find the JS folder. When you click on it, you will see these folders inside of it. In each of them, you will find absolutely all the JS code of your eShop, from Bootstrap files, external libraries used by us like jQuery, to our homemade plugins that deal with the products, filters, or pagination functionalities, for instance. If we have a look into the compiled folder, we will see that here we have all the scripts underscore files that we have created when we have compiled the JS. If you go to the front end and if you inspect network tab, JS filter, and if you refresh, here we have the current minified script which has all the JavaScript compiled and minified. So if we search for this file, we will certainly find it here, and here we have it. Okay, now let's have a look into the lib folder. Here we have the external libraries like jQuery, or for instance the ADN payment method script that we are using in the website. If you need to include new libraries to your website, all that you need to do is to upload the script into this folder, compile JS, and you will have it. And finally, we have the base and the custom folders, these two. In the base one, we will have all the Bootstrap scripts and also all the CG scripts. These are the homemade ones that I mentioned before. All the JS code that is not part of Bootstrap scripts, the CG scripts, or external libraries, those scripts should be included in the custom folder. If we check this folder quickly, we will see there is a custom.js file. And when we edit it, here we have some custom code that has been included here, And this is the right place where you can start to add your custom code as well. Cool. Knowing all of this, then we can focus on the base folder. This one, the base. As we have said before, here we have all the Bootstrap scripts. If you need to make the compiled and minified script smaller, and you might not need some of the Bootstrap features like the affix or the button or whatever Bootstrap feature, please feel free to delete the scripts that you do not need. You can compile the JS and you will get your scripts underscore file smaller. And if you keep scrolling down, you will start to see all the CG plugins, each of this one. These are the ones we have created for managing different functionalities, as we mentioned it before too, like the pagination or the product's information, for example. And this is where I wanted to drive you to in this tutorial video. If you edit any of these CG plugins, you will see we have the same structure that the Bootstrap scripts. Let's edit the modal Bootstrap plugin, for instance. If we search for Bootstrap modal and we edit this one, here we can see we have the, let's make this a little bit bigger. There we have it. Okay, so we have the class definition, we have the default object where we have some properties set here, and then we will have all the methods of this script, like the toggle, show, all of them. And if you scroll down to the very bottom of the file, you will have the plugin definition. This is where all the instances of this object are created in this loop. And if we edit any of the CG plugins, we will find the same structure. Let's open the CG filter plugin, not here, but here, search for filter, this one, CG filter. This plugin is used in the category pages. If we check any of them, like the new arrival category, for instance, here on the left column, we will see different filters like the size, the color, price. We can reset the filters or we can search in the filters. These filters are managed through this plugin. But if we go back to the plugin code, this one, we will see that we have a defaults object that is much bigger than the Bootstrap model, but the concept is the same. Have defaults and properties inside of it. We have the class definition, and then we start to have all the methods of this plugin, like, add filter, apply filter. Each of them are the methods of this plugin, and if we scroll down, we will find the plugin definition just like in the Bootstrap modal script. This structure will be the same for all the CG plugins. We could go deeper and analyze what and how we are doing what we are doing in the plugins, but we will not do that in this tutorial video. What we will do now is to learn how to override easily one of the defaults properties. Editing them will help us to easily manage some of the main plugin options. If you check the defaults object, We can scroll up again. And here, the defaults. We will find different properties. Each of them will have a small comment that will help us to understand the purpose of each of them. For instance, if we search for the enable search property, here above the defaults object definition, we have a comment for each of the properties. And if we read the related comment, we will see that this property set to false if you don't want to create the search element, this one. And how do we override this default value? Through data attributes. And this logic will work for all the default properties of all of our plugins. All that you need to do is to find which is the HTML element that will be linked to this JS object and add or edit the right data attribute. That's it. Let's see what we would need to do to override this enable search property. If we inspect the code in the filters section, here we will find some data attributes with names that sound important for this example, like data CG role filters. We have here in data initial a JSON object with some relevant information, and here we have the data enable search attribute that we were talking before. This sounds like the parameter we wish to override in our example. Here is the very line of code that is replacing the default property enable search false to true. How do we locate this line of code in our theme? Let's use the search function in the admin panel to find out that. We can search for data enable search. We go to the search function. And here we have a list with all the matches for this query. We have some HTML files where this line is included, but in our case, as we are working in the category page, the right file we want to edit is the category manager file. We edit it, and if we search for this string inside of the file, here we have this line of code. The logic will be the following one. A plugin has a default property that can be overwritten by a data attribute. In our case, the default value for enable search is false, and in this line of code we are overwriting the value to true. This means that if we remove this line of code, we will get the default property that in our case would mean false, so the enable search filter will disappear. So if we remove this, we save, we come to the front and we, just in case, we will clear the cache in order to not get the cached version of the code. And here we can see that the search filter has disappeared. So this means that if we roll back, we get the value that we removed, we save, and if we refresh, we should get the search filter back again. And here we have it. If you are curious about how we are doing this in the code, you would need to debug the plugin and you will find out how we are overwriting the default properties by the data attributes set in the HTML element that triggers the plugin. We will not cover that in this tutorial video, but what we will do is to help you to identify that main HTML element which triggers the plugin. So first of all, let's enable the uncompiled JS version in the developer plugin in order to get all the JS files instead of the minified script. This will help us to debug in a clearer way instead of getting the minified variable names. So we go to the developer plugin, we select the JS uncompiled version, and when the page has been refreshed, we will open the CG filter plugin. This one, the one where we were working before. So all that we will do is to add a breakpoint here in the plugin definition. So here we will loop and we will trigger the plugin definition for each of the elements that has the CG filter data attribute. So let's see what it happens. If we refresh, the code will be executed, and here in this object, we can find the HTML element that is triggering the plugin. This is the HTML element that can be managed through the data attributes like we said before. Here we have the data enable search true. So this is what you should have to do if you want to find the HTML element that will manage the plugin options. That's all. Thank you.